Today we're going to do one of the most important lessons of Algebra 1. So in algebra there are a couple pieces of each chapter that are going to be with you for the rest of your math career. And today's lesson is what is going to follow you for the rest of mathematical eternity for you. So what we're doing is we are multiplying still, but this time we're multiplying a monomial times a polynomial. So if we look at this here, step 1, I'm going to say circle the first term. So I'm going to circle this first term. So what that means is this here, I have a 4 that is hanging out in front of parentheses. Step 2, you have done this since like the 6th grade. It is called distribute. So what distribute means is I'm going to draw arrows to both of these terms. 4, you always multiply. 4 times 3 is 12, and there's an x there. 4 times 8 is a positive 32. So that's what we do to multiply a monomial times a polynomial. In example 2, we'll try this one together. I'm going to circle the term in the front, and I'm going to send it to both terms. 6 times 2 is 12. X and x is x to the second. 6 times 4 is 24 with an x there. So in this one here, you had to be careful. It was a 6 times 2, which is 12, but in this one, there's an x here and there's another x here. So when you distribute, there becomes 2 of them. 6 times 4 is 24. There's an x, so there has to be an x in your answer. So we'll do that again. But this time, we're not just distributing it to 2 terms, but we're distributing to a trinomial. So in this one here, 2 times 8 is 16, x squared. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8 with an x. 2 times 3 is positive 6. So I'm still distributing, but this time there were 3 terms instead of 2. One more time, I circle the term in the front, and I draw arrows to each term. 3 times 4 is 12. An x here and 2 x's here makes x to the third. 3 times 8 is positive 24. An x here and an x here makes x to the second. 3 times 2 is positive 6. An x, with no more x's, is just the letter x. So again, I distribute the number in front to each of my terms. Go ahead and try the 4 examples below. Go ahead and try numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, let's move on. So now we're going to do the same thing, except instead of a monomial in the front, we have a binomial. There's 2 pieces. So we're going to start using the same idea. So I'm going to write down, same as before, we're going to circle the first term. Circle the first term. So here it is. I'm going to put a 1 in front of this x. I'm going to put a 1 right here as well to make it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. So I circle the first term and distribute. Circle the first term and distribute. So what that means, I have a 1x times 1x. 1 times 1 is the number 1. X and x is x to the second. Then I have a 1 times 8, which is 8 with an x. So my first term is done. I distributed that 1x to both of those terms. So now, step 2. Circle the second term and distribute. Okay, so here's my second term. It's a positive 2, and I'm going to distribute that. 2 times 1 is positive 2, and there's an x there. 2 times 8 is positive 16. So now we distributed both terms, so now we're done with the multiplying part. Now, if you look at this question, we have something called like terms. 8x's and 2x's are friends. They're the same letter, so we can put them together. So my step 3 is called combine like terms. Combine like terms. So my final answer is 1x squared. 8x's plus 2x's is 10x's. Don't change the exponent when you add. 8 plus 2 is 10. The letter was x. Then the back number gets to come down. It was just a plus 16. So this here is your final answer. Let's try that again. Example 2. Step 1, circle the first term and distribute to both terms. So we're going to ignore the 8. We're just going to take the first term and distribute. 2 times 3 is 6. X with another x is x to the second. 2 times negative 5, positive 2, times a negative 5 is a negative 10, and that 2 had an x with it. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. First term is done. Next term is an 8. I'm going to distribute that 8. 8 times 3 is the number 24 with an x. 8 times negative 5 is the number negative 40. That term has now been distributed, so we're done. But step 3, we can't forget about step 3. The like terms are the numbers that have the same variable. So negative 10x and 24x are like terms because they both have an x. So my final answer is 6x squared. Negative 10 plus 24 is a positive 14x. And then there's a minus 40. Minus 40 in the back. Okay? Distribute and get your answer. So go ahead and try numbers 1 and 2 in the practice. You're just doing numbers 1 and 2. Take a minute. Try number 1. You can put invisible ones there to help you. 1 times 1 is 1. X and x is x squared. 1x squared. All right, once you do 1 and 2, let's go ahead and go back to our examples. So let's go back to example 3. So in example 3, we're doing the same thing. I'm going to put an invisible 1 here to help us out. So in example 3, I circle the first term, and I draw arrows to each of my pieces. So what that gives me, 1 times 2 is the number 2. There's an x here, and there's 2 x's here, so that makes x to the third. So my first term, I distributed it times the first term. So now I distribute to the next one. 1 times 3 is positive 3. And x, and this one here has an x, so together they have 2 x's. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4 with an x. First term is done because I distributed it to both pieces. My next term is a positive 2. 2 times 2 is 4 with an x squared. 2 times 3 is 6 with an x. 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. So I distributed both pieces. This time I distributed to 3 terms instead of just 2. Now I go through and combine like terms. 2x cubed, there's no other x cubed, so that gets to come down. 3x squared can combine with 4x squareds. 3 plus 4 is 7x squareds. Negative 4x's plus 6x's is positive 2x's. And we have this minus 8 in the back, so the minus 8 gets to come down. Seems like a lot, but once you do it, it's not that bad. So we'll do the same thing with example 4. Circle your first term and distribute. 4x times 1x squared. 4 times 1 is 4. X and 2 x's is 3 x's. 4 times 3 is 12. An x here and an x here makes x to the second. 4 times 2 is 8. We have an x here, so that comes down. First term has distributed, so we're done. Next term, positive 5. I send this 5 to each of my terms. 5 times 1 is 5 with an x squared. 5 times 3 is 15 with an x. 5 times 2 is 10. Distributed, the second term. Final answer, combine like terms. 4x cubed has no friends, so that's done. 12x squareds plus 5x squareds is 17x squareds. 8x's plus 15x's is 23x's. A positive 10 in the back just means we put a positive 10 in the back. Okay, same thing as before, but this time we're distributing to 3 terms instead of to 2. So now go ahead, try numbers 3 and 4. When you're done, flip to the very last page, and you're going to practice all of these multiplying. Starts with monomials. This is the easiest type. That's what we did on the very first page. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are the easy ones. You just take that number and you distribute. You multiply the whole number and you count the letters. When you get to number 4, this is double distributing because we have to distribute the first piece, then we have to distribute the second piece. So go ahead and try these practice ones, and then you are all set for today.